Ministry is stressful. And it's confusing sometimes. And missions definitely, missionaries are constantly in transition. And I actually came across a story that reminded me just how stressful ministry can be. And it wasn't one that I had thought a lot about. But as I read this story, it blew my mind. I read about a man, and we'll call him Saeed. And Saeed he just pretty much hated the gospel. He thought it was a waste of time. He'd even debated against it. He just thought it was for simple-minded, weak people, just for people who, needed a crutch. And so he had a strong disbelief against the gospel, and he thought it was something really just for infidels. But many of the local believers in the church had been praying and praying that he would come to know Jesus. And one day, their prayer was answered. And as Saeed describes it, Jesus came to him in a dream or a vision. He wasn't quite sure what that was. His life was radically transformed when he was confronted with the truth of Jesus. And he quickly found some new believers who he used to debate against and be against them. They were now his friends, and he wasn't sure if he could trust them because he was in a real bind as he was in that part of the world, the Middle East, where when you give your life to Christ, you immediately are in danger. And so now he's in really a hot mess. What's he going to do? His old friends want to kill him, literally, and his new friends aren't sure if they can trust him. And so he begins to get discipled and get trained, but finally all this stuff brews together and it comes to a head, and the militants are literally hunting for Saeed one night. They're literally going door to door throughout his town looking for Saeed. He's in a panic, obviously, because he is held up several stories up in his friend's apartment, and he's like, what do I do? It's too far to jump. There's not a fire escape. There's no way to get down. And finally, his friends come up with this idea, and they say, you're going to have to jump out the rope. We're going to have, jump out with some rope. And so they jerry-rig a harness together, and they put it on him, they tie him up with it, they throw out the rope. They don't even know it's going to hit the bottom. They don't know if it's long enough. And Saeed literally takes a leap of faith, jumps out the window, and he's just hanging there. He's just dangling, wondering, am I going to make it to the bottom, or will the militants kill me first? When I heard that story, it resonated at multiple levels for me, because I wouldn't say I'm an excellent rock climber, but I have been going since I've been in college, and one of my birthday presents that my wife got me was a climbing trip with some of my buddies. And this is the kind of gear that we take with us. And even with all this gear, the helmets, the harnesses, the carabiners, the safety rope, all this kind of stuff, every time I rappel, I climb, there's part of me that still gets like a lump in my throat. I don't know if you've ever been, you guys, Indiana's #1 state for climbing in the country. Do you guys know that? That's not true. It's so flat, right? I don't know. Marion is like the 3rd highest elevation in the state, It's like, but I get so nervous when I climb. So I can't imagine what Saeed was feeling just hanging there, just dangling there. It takes so much trust whenever you climb and whenever you're rappelling and any kind of sport, let alone that kind of just high level trust, high risk kind of sport. And here he is hanging out the window wondering, are these guys going to drop me? Are they really going to hold the rope? And when I thought about that story more, it not only reminded me of the stress that missionaries are under and the stress that we all have in ministry and just in daily life, but I think this is a great picture of how many missionaries feel. They've taken this huge leap of faith, trusting in Jesus. They've raised support. They've taken this leap, not knowing exactly how it's going to land. It's a high-risk proposition. They've jumped out the window. They've taken their family with them, or they've gone by themselves, or whatever it is, and they hope the rope holds. I hope the harness works. Am I going to reach the bottom? How long is it going to take to get there? And I think they live in this tension because there's many things that probably you guys know, or maybe you don't. There's things that, as a missionary, you feel like you can't say to other people. What are they going to think of you? I mean, you're a missionary, for crying out loud, right? I mean, you got it all figured out. You got a direct line to God. And so they worry, what if I let them down? What if they don't like me? What if they don't support me financially anymore? All these things run through their mind. They're under tremendous amount of stress. And so what do we do as missionaries and as pastors and just as a lot of times as Christ followers is we hold it all in. It's incredibly lonely. It's incredibly stressful. A study done a few years ago, a research group actually looked into stress and the amount that people are under. And a group called Holmes and Ray created a stress inventory. Created around 1,000-point scale is what they decided. And they said, if you're between 150 to 300 stress points, you have a 50% chance of a health breakdown in the next 2 years. So if your score is between 150 and 300, 50% chance something bad's going to happen, right? Something internally, some kind of health issue. If your score is at 300 or above, chance rises to 80%. Well, then they started researching missionaries. Hundreds of missionaries, and they said the average score, they experienced that the average lifetime score of a missionary is 600 points, compared to the average U.S. score of 100. This is over the course of your lifetime. Another study found that 94% of missionaries reported they've experienced trauma on the field. Another 86% said they've experienced repeated traumas. Trauma being defined, and these are a couple categories, there's many more. Insecurity due to political upheaval, fear of robbery or have been robbed, natural disasters, daily friction in being in new cultures or just a stressful culture, being the first to show up when you have a different value and time system, not understanding cultural jokes and differences, being frustrated with the culture, crazy traffic, different personal space than the culture you're from. All these things contribute to high levels of stress. Ministry is hard. And all God's people said? Amen. I was fundraising. I was a missionary for several years in Uganda with my wife, Erica, and that's a whole other fun story. I can tell you another day, but we're out, we're fundraising, and we're preaching places and speaking and sharing about God's vision and all this stuff. And afterwards, a sweet little old lady came up to me, and she grabbed my hand. And it was like, we were in the South, and so I didn't think too much of it. But it was getting a little weird. She was kind of petting me, but I was like, I'm up here, you're down here, not a big deal. And so she's petting my hand, and then she said something I've never forgotten. She said, "Bless your heart." Some of you have lived in the South, I can tell. Because when someone says, "Bless your heart," what's that mean? What's about to come next, it's going to hurt, okay? And so she's petting my hand. She says, "Bless your heart. You tried to preach." I was like, I didn't know we were being that honest today, Ministry is hard. Ministry is stressful. So what can we do to help? What can we do to help our missionaries, the people we love, we care about, we support, we send out, we commission, we pray for? I love what William Carey said, and he's known as the father of the modern missions movement. And he was talking with his friend, Andrew Fuller, who was also extremely active, as probably most of you know, in missions. And I love this quote. He said, "I will go down to the pit if you will hold the ropes." What he was saying is, I can't do this alone. I'm willing to go, but I need you to hold the ropes. I need you to be my support system. I need you to actually pray, to literally pray, to advocate for me. And so while Carey was in India, he knew he could count on Fuller to hold the ropes. Who holds the rope really matters. Turn to your neighbor and tell them, who holds the rope really matters. Now say it like you believe it, and then not like it's 2:30 in the afternoon, okay? You may want to write this stuff down, okay? It's late in the afternoon. You guys look smart, but your brains sound a little fuzzy right now, so. The Bible says, it talks about it one way, the Bible talks about holding the rope is this. It's Galatians 6:1. And it says, brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourself, or you also may be tempted. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. I love the way the Message says it this way. It says, live creatively, friends. If someone falls into sin, this is a cool phrase, forgivingly restore them, saving your critical comments for yourself. Amen. Yes. You might be needing forgiveness yourself before the day is out. Stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed. Share their burdens and so complete Christ's law. There's this incredible image. And if you've ever read Dennis Kinlaw, his book on prayer, Bearing the World as Jesus Did, he dives into this. A great, great resource if you've never read it. And he talks about, in terms of, he uses this passage and many others, that this idea of being the burden-bearing God, it's the image of a mother carrying a child for 9 months. They labor, they toil, it's painful, it's hard. You can't get away. That baby is there. But it's so others can live. And Paul's saying, what if we started carrying our people that way? What if we walked so closely with Jesus that we didn't have to say, give me techniques on prayer, but we just knew the Father's heart so much that he's like, this is what's on God's heart. I know what to pray for because I know his voice. I know Jesus. I know what he's saying. And we start carrying the things that he carries. We start carrying the people that he carries. And he reminds us that salvation, none of us came to know Jesus by ourselves. It's always through someone else. Ministry shouldn't be done alone either. We need people who will hold the rope, because who holds the rope matters. So what's that look like? I debated on whether to share this or not. I did not just pick one missionary, by the way, so as I give you this title, don't be like, I can't believe he's sharing all these secrets and these confidential things. This is not confidential. This is a conglomerate of stuff that I have learned and others on our team have learned. I want to share with you 5 confessions of missionaries. And as we do that, I want to give you some rope building skills, if you will. How to hold the rope. How do you do that well? These are just 5 ideas. There's thousands of others. You guys are all smart. You'll figure out. But if you can do this, not only will you be able, I think, to help your missionaries and care for them, not just financially, but way beyond. I think it'll help you, your church, your ministry engage in huge global kingdom work. So, number 1, and these are not exhaustive by any means. Confession number 1, sometimes I hide that I'm trying, that I'm in a dry season with God. Sometimes I hide that I'm in a dry season with God. It's commonly thought that ministries, right, just they walk on water, and we all know when you're in ministry, all you have is free time, right? I mean, you only work an hour a week, maybe 2 if you're a pastor, or maybe less if you're a pastor. I don't know. I've been a pastor, and it's the easiest gig you can get. True or false? No way. People would always ask me, is that a full-time job? And I say, yeah, you all are a mess. And it takes all my time just to pray for you and not pray against you. And so our missionaries, they don't always have a direct line to God, do they? They get tired, they get busy, they get running and gunning like we do. And how do you say that to people? I'm having doubts, I'm having questions, I'm in a hard season, I'm wondering what's really happening. So what can we do? Rope skill number 1, be a shepherd. Even if you're not officially a pastor, you can be a shepherd. You can commit to praying. You could carry them in prayer, really care. Ask the Holy Spirit to put them on your heart, or put them on your heart and mind, so you really know, you really care, you really think about them like you think about yourself. We have something at WGM that we talk about, and it's not exclusive to us. We talk about praying the Luke 10:2 prayer challenge. Luke 10 verse 2 says, pray the Lord of the harvest for more workers. So every day our phones go off, 10:02 a.m. Some people are aggressive and they do a.m. and p.m. My kids like to pull that one at night. They're like, hey, can't we stay up a little bit longer to 10:02 p.m.? And I'm like, I love that you're trying to Jesus juke me right now, but no. So what if simple, I'm going to commit to pray for you every day, 10:02. That's a basic thing you could do. All the way up to, What if you did something more intense, an online discipleship group? We're seeing more and more of our missionaries, they're doing either face-to-face discipleship and small groups with people on their fields, or they're doing it globally with technology now, with friends back home or other missionaries, other countries. What if you did the same YouVersion Bible plan? You said, hey, we're going to commit to do this, even if you can't do weekly. That may be too much for you. Your plate's full. Well, there's probably someone in your church, in your ministry, in your small group, someone that could do it at least monthly. Something where you could shepherd them, guide them. You could share one of your favorite podcasts that you've been listening to. You could share a TED Talk that encouraged you, a sermon. Maybe it's even yours that blessed them, blessed you, and could make a difference. Here's a song that God used to encourage me. What if you had a shepherding heart when you said, hey, I want to come alongside you? Confession number 2, I sometimes feel helpless. Have you ever been in the airport waiting for your baggage or that delayed flight? There is no worse feeling than just feeling helpless. Our missionaries, man, they would like to say they don't worry, they do. Just like you and me. Am I raising my kids right? Am I messing them up really bad because another culture? And now they're going to college, and now I'm far away from them. And what about my parents? My parents are getting older, or how do I get back in time? I can't get back in time. I don't have the money to get back in time. Even if I wanted to get back in time, I couldn't get back. And they are in this constant, stressful situation. Me, if I was closer to my kids, now they're in college or they just graduated, maybe they would be making better decisions if I was nearby. They feel pretty helpless. And they pray like crazy, but there's an angst inside of them. And then some of you even said, I even play the comparison game with my friends back home, thinking I should be further along in life like they are. Look what they have. The house, the toys, the vacations, and I'm just a missionary. They have this guilt, and it's a lie from the enemy. So rope skill number 2 is empathize, not sympathize. Now, empathy, I'm from New Jersey. That's not even in the matrix of people born in New Jersey. It's not an option of giftings, okay? And so my wife is a sweet Southern belle, and she's helped teach me this a little bit. Empathy is a feeling. It's you feel with the people, not for the people. Empathy fuels connection and relationship, and sympathy, it just drives it away. Maybe it's best to think of it like this. You're walking along this cliff, and someone is stuck at the bottom. They're on a ledge, and they scream up, help, I'm stranded down here. I'm really scared. I'm overwhelmed. I don't think I can get out. I don't think I can get back up. Well, empathy walks by, and they look down, and they say, okay, I see you. Stay calm. I'm coming down. We're going to get out of this. It's going to be okay. This is hard, but we're going to figure it out. That's empathy. What does sympathy do? Sympathy looks over the edge and says, ooh, man, that is the worst thing I've ever seen. You're never getting out, bro. That is terrible. Somebody should help you. Empathy makes us really uncomfortable. And so typically when someone's like sharing their story or sharing something hard, we tend to then share something hard back about our story to make us comfortable, but we've actually just made it then all about us. Because we don't know what to do. We don't know what to say. So let me give you a couple of tricks, and I stole these from Brene Brown, and you should check out some of her studies on this if you haven't. It's pretty good. Empathy 101, as I call it, but here's some of her phrases. She says, try not to one-up people. You know any one-uppers? Someone says like, oh man, I just had the hardest conversation at work. You think that's bad? I mean, and they lay on this over the top, and now you're just like, yeah, but I was, what? They one up you. Another thing, try not to gasp. You should just love Jesus more. You're a missionary. You shouldn't even have these kind of thoughts. How dare you? You might even want to question your salvation. You know, you're backsliding. Don't gasp. And also, don't minimize it with these 2 killer words, at least. You know what I mean? Oh, my parents just died. Well, at least you have me. What? Oh, man, my marriage is really, it's not going good. Well, at least you have a marriage. Oh, man, my kids are my middle son, he's wandering away from the Lord. Well, at least 2 out of 3 is not bad. We try to find a silver lining around every conversation, and I am Mr. Optimist. I get that. That's not empathy, though. It's not the right time. So when people are feeling in these hard situations where they're feeling helpless, you can offer some real advice. Like, so if they're feeling like, man, my kids are far away, I don't know how to get to them, they're in college. Yeah, you could. It would be great. Say, hey, what if I go and I visit them? What if I shoot them a text? Can I give them a phone call? You could definitely do those practical things, but listen and say things instead like, man, that's hard. I feel you. I see what's happening, and you're not alone in it. Do you want to talk more about it? And then you can offer to help and say, hey, I'll go, you know what? You're far away. You won't get back in time. I'll do the hospital visit to your parents till you get there. Hey, I'll help move your parents into assisted living until you get back. You could provide some real assistance that way. Confession number 3. I feel guilty when I'm not working. I've literally had missionaries, especially our medical missionaries, say to me, I can't stop. I can't stop working. People literally die if I take a break. Do you know that pressure? I do not know that pressure. They literally can see a line forming, and they're just trying to eat dinner and have good boundaries with their family, and they see the line forming knowing that they have medication for 5, and there's 35 waiting for the same meds. How do you decide who gets the meds? That's an impossible situation. So they feel guilty. There's so much work. I cannot stop. And even when they do talk themselves into finally taking a Sabbath, taking a vacation, they feel guilty because they know where they came from probably wasn't that nice. And they feel bad, and they wonder, well, people are going to judge me, and then we went on too nice of a vacation, and then everyone's going to stop supporting me, and then the ministry's over. Erica and I were wrestling with the same thing when we were overseas, and we had not had regular power or water for about 3 months, and so we were going, we still had the means to go get it, but it was just a lot harder, and we're just, lazy pansy Americans, and so we complain about everything. And so we were still doing it, but we were getting tired, we were getting burnt out, and we got an unexpected tax return. And so we were like, yes, we can finally go, we can go take a break, take a vacation someplace where we can drink the water, not worry about dysentery or anything else weird like that. We won't need Cipro. And so we're all excited, and then it hit us. We felt guilty. Where we live, these people can't take a break. They don't get a break from this life. The other missionaries don't get a break, or they're not choosing to take the same break that we want to take a break. And what about our supporters? If they find out where we're going, what if they stop supporting us? What if they think less of us? Would they think we're not Christ-like enough because we need a break? And we wrestled and we prayed and we finally decided, you know what? We're going to write a blog post. This is when blogs were still cool back then. And we just told them, honestly, here's what's happening. We're tired, we're exhausted, we need a break. God's provided a way to do that, and we're going to go for it. And we decided people didn't like that and dropped us. We didn't want them on our team. We didn't mean to be harsh. We just said, man, we want people that get us, and and it was amazing. It's probably the only time it's ever happened in ministry. We got 100% positive feedback and encouragement, 0 criticism. That's never happened in my life since. It was awesome. So what can you do? Remind them that even God needed a break. Even God rested. And that's not like a Jesus juke or throw it in their face. It's just, I think you can ask it in a very gentle, real way, like, hey, when was your last Sabbath? You're on a path to crash. You cannot be at your best if you just constantly are running. We know this. So what does it look like? What if you read or listened to the same book over the course of several weeks together? 24/6 or Run Hard, Rest Well or Sacred Rhythms, all great books. There's tons of awesome resources. What if you did that together? There's someone on your staff or another volunteer. You can't do it all yourself. I'm not saying you should. You could also, what if you took the same Sabbath? You held each other accountable. Hey, I know we're in different time zones, but wait, we're both going to take Fridays. Or whatever your work rhythm might be. Maybe they can take Sundays and you can take Sundays or Saturdays or whatever it is. Now, these get a little more crazy, okay? This is when you start throwing stuff at me, okay? But what if you surprise them with an overnight getaway that you paid for? What if you paid for an Airbnb pretty much anywhere in the world now? Or what if when they're back stateside, you pay for one night, or maybe there's someone in your church, they have a place, they have a cabin, they have a beach house. What if you helped them out? And the grand slam of, this is the 601 level, 101 to 601 level here if you're going to tackle this. What if you or someone you knew or a group of you came together and you paid for a vacation for them? You're our missionary. We believe in you. We see what God's doing in and through you. You need this. When we took that vacation, it was the most life-giving time. God had orchestrated so many awesome conversations and great memories. Man, it fueled us back up for the next season of ministry. Confession number 4. Sometimes I believe that I'm forgotten. You're tired, you're running down, and so you start to believe all these lies from the enemy, right? Man, this is hard. People don't get it. No one even cares. No one appreciates it. No one knows what I do. This culture's crazy. It's irritating to me. They don't get me. America doesn't get me. America's changing so fast. And man, they're so opulent. They spent $10,000 on their dog. And man, and all this stuff is all, is mulling together inside of you. And it's just giving the enemy all kinds of footholds. And so you feel forgotten. What if you built a great commission culture together? Wouldn't it be cool? And again, different skill sets for different missionaries, I know that. But I'd be willing to bet there's a couple of them. What if you treated them like they'd be like a staff member? Like a high-level volunteer, where you could speak into their ministry and they could speak into yours? What if you could help create a missionary culture together where you're regularly replying to their posts? Not just hitting like, not just putting a little heart, not just a little thumbs up, but you actually make a comment. And then you post something on your churches or your ministries, social media, and they reply back and speak into it. Hey, we're seeing that firsthand here in the field. You're starting to build it. What if you create a preaching calendar for your church or speaking or a conference, and they get to speak into it? Maybe they even do a 2-minute video because maybe the technology doesn't work, or sometimes you don't want to. Just depending on their speaking abilities and their level of communication. They could shoot a 2-minute video just saying, hey, here's how God's showing up. We want you to meet so-and-so. Here's how God's, You could share that, make it part of your sermon series, part of a ministry. Vice versa. Hey, we love you. We appreciate you. You could do a thank you campaign. Tell them all the difference that they're making in and through what they're doing. It's amazing. With WhatsApp now, I use this almost every day. I live down in Noblesville and commute here. And almost every day I use WhatsApp. If you don't know WhatsApp, it's amazing. It's free. You can video, you can call, you can text anywhere in the world to someone who has it. There's no reason for anybody to feel forgotten today. What if you thought of your missionary as helping you create a Great Commission culture? I think it could have the same effect as if you have kids or have ever been a kid, maybe you can relate to this. Do you remember when your parents would bring you an idea and they'd maybe say, John, we really think you should try out for basketball. And you'd be like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard, Dad. But then a teacher or a friend's dad or mom would say the same thing to you and be like, hey, John, man, you should probably try out for basketball. You're like, you come home and you're like, hey, guess what? Guess what Jude's dad said to me? What? He said, let's try out for basketball. And what's the parent do? That's a great idea. I've been saying that for weeks, right? I've been telling you. When it's the parent, you're like, you're an idiot. But when someone else says it, they're a genius. You ever felt like that as a pastor or a ministry? You're saying you're playing the same music over and over and over again. You're playing the same, and they're going like, blah, blah, missional living, blah, 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 reach out, touch the world, blah, blah, blah. And then you bring in someone from the outside, and they're like, did you hear what they said? That was awesome. You're like, I say it every week. Yes, let's do that. Good idea, guys. What if a missionary could be like that for you? And what if you could be like that for them? What if you could speak in and make a big difference more than just what you can see right here and now? Last one. I debated over this image because I thought some of you might judge me, but I'm from New Jersey and I gave up being judged a long time ago. So sometimes I get frustrated with other missionaries. Here's a softer one of that. There. I feel like butting heads differently, but I get frustrated with other missionaries. I don't know if you know this, but human beings don't always get along, and missionaries are no exception. It's one of the top reasons, actually, missionaries leave. Right? You get tired, you get frustrated, different personalities, different stories, different ways of doing things. I want to take lots of teams. I don't want to take any teams. I want to grow. I don't want to grow. I think we should do it this way. I think we should do it that way. I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm homesick. I'm not, all these things are coming back into play. And so we have to do something, otherwise the enemy gets a foothold. And so what can we do? Be a sounding board. And I'm in no way saying here, be their professional counselor. But be a safe person or someone on your team or another part of your volunteer network or whatever ministry you're involved with. Be a safe place where they can share thoughts and ideas. And you can ask some questions. Don't ask shocked. Again, don't be like, I can't believe missionaries actually don't get along sometimes. Instead, say, well, what would restoration look like in this situation? Ask them more about, tell me more about what you guys are dealing with. What do you think is causing the friction? Have you talked with, leadership about this? Have you got any other insight? And you don't want to be the professional counselor. You want to be part of their community, though. Just like if you're a pastor or you're a ministry, there's underbelly things that you can't share with the first-time, brand-new believer in Christ. It's going to shock them, right? They're going to be like, I didn't know that about church. You could be that safe person for them. And then you can pray with them, ask the Holy Spirit to also, this is always a weird one, maybe the problem's you, or them in that case, right? You always have a part to play. So you pray and say, hey, what do you think your role in this is? Maybe there's some self-discovery. Then you pray with them, and you say, okay, when are you going to have the conversation? They set the conversation, and you pray with them, and you circle back, and you follow up. Tell me how it went, and you anticipate God's going to show up. And this was just for fun. So there's 25 ideas. I've only given you a few here. There's lots of other ways. You guys are all super smart. So as you guys leave here for a break in a couple minutes, the team will be out there of WGMers, and they've got a sheet if you want the top 25. Or just 25. I don't know if it's necessarily the top 25, but we'll happy to give that to you with some more ideas, and maybe it'll spur some other things on as well. But I mentioned earlier that I went climbing with my buddies, and I hit a milestone this year that my team and the rest of our staff likes to remind me. I turned 40 this year. I'm officially adulting, I guess. And so there's lots of fun with that. And so one of the cool things that my wife did was my two friends, Bill and Billy, both like great climbers, outdoormen, love Jesus, but we were all over the world. We literally haven't been together, all three of us, in the same place in 10 years. Like 2 out of 2, but not all 3. So we decide we're going to go down to Chattanooga, and we're going to climb, we're going to hike, we're going to eat like awesome food and just do like manly guy stuff, right? And just have a great time. And so we're laughing, have a great time. And my one friend, Bill, he's a pastor, and he also runs this Rocks to River, like outdoor adventure thing. So he's like a pro climber. Like he has all the gear. He has all the carabiners. He has all the ropes, the helmets. He knows the routes to go on. And so one morning, it's about 2 Thursdays ago. It's early morning, and we're having a great time. We're drinking, I brought back Ugandan coffee with me. We ground it. It's beautiful, 75 degrees. Now it's mid-morning. We're just like, catching up. We're reading the Word. We're speaking to others' lives, and we're like, let's go. Let's get out there. And so, mid-morning, Thursday, 75 degrees. The sun is out. The birds are singing. We walk past a waterfall. Like, it's just like everything is utopic, right? Just like, oh, it's perfect. Thank you, God, And we get to the first climbing route. And he says, we have backpacks on. We have hiking boots. And he's like, all right, let's put on your gear. And I get a little bit of a lump in my throat because I haven't climbed in a while. And I'm semi in shape, but there's a big difference between basketball shape and like rock climbing shape. And so, I'm putting my rock climbing shoes on. I'm putting my harness on. He's like, hey, this one's only about 150, 200 feet climb. There's 3 tiers to this climb. And so we strap up and we get the rope. And so he's letting it out. And he's like, I'll go up first and I'll set everything up. And then I'll get you to the first tier. And then we'll go to the second tier. And then we'll finish up with the third. And I'm starting to get a little sweaty, and it's like we're in the shade and it's like 10:30. You shouldn't be sweating, right? And it's that nervous kind of sweat, but I'm with my guys, right? And so I'm not gonna tell them. And so we're men, for crying out loud. So Bill scampers up, no problem, like record-setting time. Billy goes up right after him, and I'm a little nervous, but I take the first leap. I make the move. I get up, and it's surprisingly going well. Like the shoes are sticking. Rock climbing shoes are real special. If you don't know, they like stick to the rock. They get into hard places way better than sneakers or boots. And so like it's kind of like riding a bike. And I'm like, man, like this is good. Like I'm making pretty big moves. I'm grabbing stuff. I'm doing some pull-ups. I'm feeling great. And I scamper up, and in no time they're like, yeah, way to go, Rhino. That's what they all call me. And so like it's going good. And so you have to, after you get the rope and everything, we're on that next ledge, which you can, 3 guys together, you can do lots of stupid stuff. And so you clip into the rock for safety and unclip from this rope. And we repeat that process. And he says, hey, these next 2 climbs, super easy. That was the hardest one. They're shorter and easier. So take off your climbing shoes. Obviously leave the harness on. We'll still use the rope for safety so our wives don't get mad at us. And we'll just keep on going. I was like, great. So I put my hiking boots back on. I put my backpack back on, which is about 50 pounds. Still have my helmet. And we scamper up to the next plateau. It wasn't hard at all. It was great. Third plateau looked a little more intense. Bill goes first because he's the lead climber, setting up everything, and he just flies up it. It's about 100 feet. Billy goes, he starts struggling, which is not good news for me because we're in order of skill when it comes to climbing here. And so when the second guy up is struggling, I know that it's not going to go well for me. But I don't say any of this out loud. I just, have my harness on and I clip in, and I get ready. And there's a couple of commands you repeat, and you say, belaying, you say on belay, climbing, climb on. So we go through that. And the first move, it's a lot trickier than the other 2. And if you don't know, as guys, you tend to want to use your upper body almost for everything and just kind of muscle it up. But the smartest people use their legs because your legs are obviously way stronger than your upper body. But this move has got an overhang. The very first thing you have to do, so it's jutting out and then it's cutting under. There's nothing underneath. So I'm here on a ledge. It's cut under. And the first move I have to make is to go up here and somehow get my feet both up at the same time. And I'm just thinking, this is the worst birthday present ever. Why did I do this? Why did I subject myself to this? But I can't say this because they both have now completed it. And if they did it, I can do it, right? And so I go for it. I jump up at the first one. I get some handholds, and I get both feet up. But I'm not wearing rock climbing shoes anymore, remember? I'm wearing the hiking boots. And hiking boots, they're bigger, they're clunkier, and they slip a lot more. And I feel myself like this is not good. And I'm in a little bit of a panic. And, Bill can't see me. He's rappelling from the top. And I'm starting to panic. I'm looking for a handhold, but everything I grab is loose, or a tree that is old and it comes out, or a rock and it falls down, and it's smooth. And I can feel my feet going. And it hits me. It's like I'm going to fall. And so I shout up quick to Bill. I was like, hey, bro, you got me. Yeah, I got you. And simultaneously, I just kind of smear down the rock. And not far. He caught me. But now I'm dangling there, and I'm basically back to square one. And so he's like, you good? And I kind of grumbling, I'm good. And so I'm like, I got this. I calculated, recalibrate, I know what to do. and I go after it again, man, just with more intensity, more veracity. Like, I'm a get her done guy. I'm going to get this done. And so, like, I get up there, and, like, this time, though, I only get, like, 1 foot up as I'm, like, doing the Spider-Man, like, cling to the rock, which means, if you don't know physics or rock climbing, means your other leg is left dangling. And so as I do that, I smash my thigh into the overhang because I couldn't get it up in time. And so now I could feel, like, a bruise forming and blood running down my leg. And then I still fall down. I repeat this cycle for about 10 minutes, time after time, trying harder and harder. And I'm like, I'm getting more and more frustrated with myself. I'm thinking, I got this. I'm embarrassed. So like now you're like, you know that embarrassed feeling where it's like you're sweating more and you're like, why? It's cold out. Why am I sweating? You know, like all this, I'm carrying the gear. I'm carrying too much. It's all running. I don't want to ask for help. I feel frustrated. And so finally, Bill shouts down, hey, bro, take a breath. I got you. I'm like, what does that mean? You're up there, I'm down here. Please don't come down. Like, that's just humiliating. Like, I don't want to, like, I'm all this. And he goes, all right, here's the plan. Count of 3. You're going to give it one last shot. Jump back up. I'm going to pull simultaneously. And before I could even like really agree to it, he's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, jump. And I jump, I do my Spider-Man that I've been doing, the same thing I've been doing. He gives me just enough pull that I jump up about another 4 or 5 inches. And I'm in this new place where my feet now have a better grip, and I can grab some different handholds. And I got over the hard part, and I finished the climb. Got to the top. We had a good laugh about it. They made fun of me like, you know, any good Christian brother would do, right? But when I thought about that, I thought a lot about how missionaries, I think, feel in ministry. We get to this place where we're hanging out there, we're dangling, and you know, we even have someone holding the rope for us. We have someone back home. We got a team of people that are praying for us, and they're giving financially, and they're helping to us. And we come to these hard spots in life and in ministry, and we think, I got this. And then it doesn't work the way we worked, and we say, okay, I can do this. I have the skills. I have the gear. But we're carrying all this extra stuff with us. And you start getting more and more frustrated at yourself. Like, I should be able to do this. I can't be vulnerable. I can't tell people what's really happening. And so now you're getting mad because you're like, man, I'm called here, I'm sent here, people have, supported me to go here, and it's not working. And so we go through all those things in our mind, and we're frustrated, and a lot of times it's just innocent. We just forget to ask for help. We're just going so fast. Our missionaries forget to ask. And they need someone like Bill spoken to me. I trusted who was holding the rope. From his seat, he knew exactly what help looked like. And he threw out a crazy plan that I'd never even thought of, and I barely had time to react to, and he said, we're going to do it. And it broke me through to the next place I needed to be. Who holds the rope matters. What if we could be that for our missionaries? Do you remember Saeed? Remember Saeed at the beginning? He was dangling out the window there. I thought I'd let you know. Do you want to know how did he live? Did he survive? No, we're done. We don't care. Okay. I'm going to tell you anyway. Saeed survived. He made it down. There was enough rope. He escaped. He got away. And he actually ended up having a pretty large ministry, pretty huge impact for the kingdom. You actually know Saeed. He's better known as Paul. It's Acts 9, 25 through 31 story. When those guys were holding Paul, do you think they ever thought that he was going to write 2/3 of the New Testament? Or be an incredible church planner, or that people would still be writing novels and volumes of theology books about him? They probably thought, maybe we should drop this guy. Like, is this worth it? You never know how holding the rope for someone is going to change their life. But it can also change you. I'm pretty sure that group of first century Christians were pretty different after that experience.